Alexia, the Greek City Times' roving reporter, and I'm here back in Mati. We came yesterday and had our first impression, and you had your first impression of the horror that took place here, the devastation, both in terms of the landscape and the nature, and of course knowing that by now 87 people have lost their lives. Dozens are still missing. There's still efforts to locate remains of people in the houses here. 2,000 houses have burnt down. About 500 are completely gutted. In the latest news, the Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has finally, let's say finally, because this is what a lot of people were hoping for, admitted that there was complete ineptitude in dealing with these fires and this situation, because until now the government was taking a stance that they would have kind of done things the same way again. And there was a huge public outcry about this, obviously, a lot of rage, a lot of frustration in people who saw what happened and lost so many loved ones. Practically everyone I know personally has lost someone or has a friend who's lost someone. I mean, it's all very, very connected, and as I said, there's still a lot of people missing. The Athens morgue receives constant stream of visitors who are going to find their loved ones, and now it has also asked for people to give their DNA samples so that they can try and connect what they have found with the families who are searching for people. And another very sad news item today is that the two girls who were missing, amongst the many missing, as I said, the twin girls were found dead, embracing their grandparents and burnt alive. Now, what do we do from here on? There's a lot of efforts, a lot of people are sending in money for people to start rebuilding their lives and rebuilding their hope. And some of those people are coming from abroad. We have here with us Paul Davis. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
From the Billy Graham Association. They're a UK-based charity, and they travel over to anywhere where there's been a crisis event such as what happened here, a devastating on a social and psychological as well as physical level event. And they've just arrived yesterday to Athens, if I'm right, you arrived yesterday, to offer support to the Greek people. Can you tell us a little bit about your mission here and address our viewers who are watching us from all over the world?
I'd love to. Thank you first of all for the opportunity to speak to you this morning and to all your viewers. It's such a time as this. Billy Graham is an organisation that's worldwide. It's based in America, and we're the UK branch. And we've got. It
was created by Billy Graham,
that's correct,
the evangelist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got evangelists, people coming out from America tomorrow, and another one today. So we're building a team here, and we're here to try and help people. You mentioned the word hope in your introduction, and what we're trying to do is to help people to find hope in such a time of disaster, such a time of personal crisis. Not to come alongside them and judge them or to give them any sort of thing other than that sense of hope that there is a future. When you talk about families that have lost children, they've lost loved ones, they've lost parents, their businesses, parents, friends. It's very hard to see that there's a future. And what we want to do and what we will be doing is, in a gentle and loving way, just trying to help them see that there is a hope, there is a future.
I know that Billy Graham himself, since the 40s, had quite an influential role in advising also world leaders. I remember, well, I'm a fan of the show The Crown, and I saw that Queen Elizabeth was very drawn to his preachings, and she invited him to Buckingham Palace twice to give her consultation advice, and also he has advised a lot of US presidents up to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And his main message is to not have prejudice between religions and races and sexes. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
So anywhere you go, you don't go there to preach your certain religion. You go there to help and support people. Isn't that right?
Billy Graham organisation offers love to everyone. Mm-hmm. We're here to offer hope to everyone, irrespective of their belief structure, irrespective of their gender, their sexuality, or any discriminating factor.
And you're all volunteers?
We're all volunteers. And, Billy Graham was an amazing role model. And as you rightly say, he was able to bring hope into the different places. He worked with, important government leaders, with presidents, with the Queen, and it was wonderful when he came to the UK, and he was incredibly popular. I remember being there.
All right.
On 2 occasions and saw him, which was great.
Was in the 70s?
Yeah. Don't tell anyone because I don't look old enough to be. But it was and one of the things that we want to do while we're here, and we've been asked to do by folk here, is to actually do some teaching for some of the volunteers that are here.
Right. Okay.
For some young people that have been volunteering to help already in Matti. So we've been asked by different churches if we would teach some of those volunteers.
So how will you go about that? What kind of teaching will you offer to the volunteers? And if you can...
Yes, of course. We can do that in a variety of ways. We can do that by one-to-one, just working alongside the people and going round with them and showing them and talking about the way that we've learned as an organisation, the best way forward. We can do that in classroom type settings, and one of the things we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of seminars here.
Yes.
Where people will come along and we'll spend a couple of hours with them, and we'll help them to understand and go through the basics of when you're working with people that are in such a difficult situation, how you can share hope, the things not to do and the things to do.
Where else has your team been? Because I know that you've been to, since it's all started since 9/11 in New York. So where have you been since then?
Pretty well.
Anywhere
in the world where there's been a crisis, the Billy Graham organisation has been there. So recently in Barcelona, France, Manchester bombing in England, the Grenfell Tower fire, you may have heard. We had a terrible fire in England. We were there.
The State House.
Yeah, and we've been to the events in America, the terrible floods. The Billy Graham organisation has been first on the scene when there's been shooting. So anywhere that there's been, we make contact with the local area and we're invited in.
Okay, now I would like to ask you, being Greek and feeling this collective sadness and heaviness from the first moment, and a lot of us in Greece are mourning still, and it's going to take a while, whether, as I said, it's a direct relation or relative or just even the idea of what happened. What are the stages right after, and how can you advise our viewers to deal with them if they've lost someone, or if they've lost even their home or their pet, or even if they just are feeling very, very devastated over what happened from far away? Can you give some help? How you would help people? Can you do that right now?
I think first of all to say is, don't feel bad that you feel pain or you feel hurt. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel anger. We get a lot of feelings when something as tragic as this happens. When our country is affected, we can feel quite stirred up, quite angry. So the first thing I would say is it's okay to feel those feelings and to give each other space and time. When we grieve, we all grieve in a different way. We all grieve at a different pace. So don't expect someone to grieve at the same speed that you will, or to react in the same way. It's very easy to say to someone, well, I know what it feels like to grieve, but until you stood in their shoes and been through their experience, it's very difficult. So I would say, allow yourself time, understand the feelings, and say, it's okay, I feel like this. You know what I mean? When my wife died, it's a very, very tough feeling, and you can't beat yourself up about it, you know. And you're saying that you've lost loved ones and friends who've lost loved ones, and it's okay to say together, to give each other a hug and say, do you know what, I love you. You know, let's enjoy those that we have with us.
Yes.
Remember those that have sadly passed away. Remember them with honour. Remember them in good ways. You know, many people will feel guilty because the last thing they maybe said to their loved one was perhaps something tense. It might have been critical. Think back to the better times. You know, it's about giving oneself the space to process it.
Right.
And to realise that today you might feel like laughing. That's okay. And to know that down the line, 2 or 3 months' time, you may feel all these feelings again. It's not something that you finish suddenly. You can't say, oh, I grieved yesterday, it's done. It could come back in 2 or 3 months, and that's okay. It's not wrong. And I think also it's very good is to share with each other.
Humans are very complex beings, aren't they?
They're amazingly complex. And, you know, if we can take time with each other, just, you know, a cup of coffee and just sit and chat, say, this is what I feel, this is what's happened, that's okay, and give people time as well. One of the things that we will do is sometimes we just sit alongside someone. We won't automatically talk at them because people need time to process what's going on in their minds. And they might then ask you a question, they might say something to you, and it's okay to give them that time. And the other thing that I think one can do, the practical things that one can do is, I love seeing, one of the things that really encouraged us yesterday was there's some young people from some of the churches that are giving out food, they're giving out drinks, they're giving out clothes, all been brought by Greek local people to give out. And
there's
it's
almost
lovely.
a surplus of right now.
Yeah, and that's beautiful in the community, and I think give little gifts to each other. If someone needs something, give it to them.
By giving, we are taking action. Yes.
That's right, and you're showing that they're important to you. Because not all of us have great words to say. Not all of us have done a degree in counselling. But if we let that sense of our love for that person that we know come through, we give them time, space and love, then they will be able to move forward.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful, I think, and valuable to a lot of people, what you've told us.
Could I add one last thing as well?
Of course, yes.
And can I say to everyone, and first of all to all those that have been affected by this terrible disaster, we send our love to you and our prayers are with you all the time. But if I can say, be willing to receive as well. One of the tough things when we're hurt is we put barriers up sometimes.
And not only when we're hurt.
You're spot on. And, we've worked with people that, where they've lost a child or they've lost a loved one, and they won't talk to you. And that's okay, but, sometimes we have to allow people into our lives a little bit. So be willing to receive love, not from everyone, but from sensitive, caring people. Does that make some sense?
Of course. So you're here in Matti, and you're training young people to be able to also offer their support.
Any volunteer that wants to.
How can people reach you?
I'll have to give you that information, but it's through the Scripture Union, through their work, is one of the people that's organising it, and we can give you the rest of the information in a moment that could go on.
Right. And do you work with the local churches wherever you go?
We're always invited in. The Billy Graham organisation never enforces itself.
Right.
We're always invited in, and we're invited in by the local church, and we will, because we are very aware that we can give some support now, but in a month's time, we may not be here.
How long will you stay?
It depends on the need.
Right.
We're booked in for 2 weeks.
How many of you are there now?
There'll be 5 of us, but we've spent much longer on the site. It depends whether we feel we can be of help and whether people still want us to be here. And the best thing we can do is equip the local church so that the local church can keep going, and we'll come back if they want us to come back, and we'll support them. And this is not going to be resolved in 2 weeks. As you said earlier, the people that have been affected by this terrible tragedy some may take years to move forward.
Yes.
It's going to take months for the infrastructure to be, people who've lost their houses, it's going to take months or years for their houses to be real.
I was listening to a talk by Eckhart Tolle the other day, dedicated to the end of suffering, and he was saying that we all suffer in our lives. That's how life is, and there is a moment where we have to decide when to stop suffering, and that's when we can actually start. We're always going to be suffering in our life, but how we interpret events and how much we dwell and focus on the sadness and the pain of an event, and for how long, is up to us. So is that something also that you're trying to help people with, to how they interpret the tragedy that they've experienced?
I think very much so. We all understand things differently. We all experience things differently, and I think it's helping the person to find their own way through. You can't put a person into a box.
Yes.
I work in accident and emergency as a chaplain, and sometimes you could have 2 people with a broken leg, and you think, well, it's going to be the same response, but each person reacts differently depending on who they are, where they are, what their life experience is. suffering is with us, but I believe that there is hope. There's a way to move forward, and there's a way to let the pain ease. If we keep picking at the spark, it never gets better.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to say, do you know what? Today I'm going to try and take a little step, and tomorrow I'll take another step, and just start doing it in little steps.
Right.
Don't try and do everything in one go. Don't try and think, well, I've grieved now, it's finished. Just be willing to do little steps and realise that, maybe one day won't be as good, other days will be better, and just go with the flow.
Very, very valuable information and support. Thank you very much for meeting with us. This is Paul Davis from the Billy Graham Association. They're a team of volunteers from the UK who travel all over the world, always upon invitation after a terrible crisis or a tragedy that has occurred, to offer their psychological and spiritual support to the people who are suffering. We are reporting live from Mati in Greece, in Attica, where there was some horrendous fires on Monday afternoon and night, and essentially most people died here in this area. Overall, by now the death toll has reached 87, dozens are still missing, and there's about 60 people in hospital, 11 of them are in critical condition still. Yes, let's, regardless of religion, spirituality, as a lot of people are sending over social media, pray for Greece, and we can all offer our support on any level we can. Practically, also there's a lot of lines that you can contact to send food parcels, medications, etc. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alexia Ambrasi, and hopefully we can wake up with new hope every day and get stronger.
Could I say one more thing?
Please, yes.
Throughout this coming weeks and months, members of the Billy Graham organisation around the world will be praying for Greece. We'll be praying for all the people. We'll be praying that people will find hope, they will find peace through this time, they will be aware of the love of God for them, and that there is a future. And if anyone would like to, the Billy Graham organisation, they can make contact with the Billy Graham organisation, and we will put local contacts with them.
Okay.
So if they're not connected with any church or any organisation, and they would just like to know that there's someone thinking of them, they can contact the Billy Graham organisation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
very much.
privilege of being able to speak to so many people.
Thank you.
Thank you.